where, a bit like every time we write, where we have certain things that happen whatever mathematics you're doing, like checking your answers and lining up the columns and so on. Now, those of you familiar with Pi Corbett's work, I've been running courses with Pi Corbett because there's a marvellous marriage between formative assessment and writing. And what we've done is together streamlined his toolkits and my success criteria. Because we were talking about the same thing, but putting it in a sort of different language, if you like. So what you will see here is what, if you hear Pi speak, you will hear exactly the same thing. So here are the different writing criteria, and I think it actually makes it clearer and easier once you have these distinctions. So the first is, you can see non-fiction examples of learning objectives where actually the success criteria are compulsory, are they not? What makes a newspaper article a newspaper article? You have to include those things or it wouldn't be a newspaper article. However, key point, unlike mathematics, where it's basically right or wrong when you've got those definite things you must include, with any of those, you still have to see what a good one looks like. The second is fiction examples, where you have the choice ingredients, like the suspense. What does that look like? What are the elements we might include? Again, you have to see what good ones look like. Then you've got your poster for every time you write. And the thing that both of us are most passionate about is having some kind of poster in the room which absolutely informs everything you do with children's writing about the importance of the impact on the reader. What we have got to is a point in this country, because of the legacy of SATs, where ask any primary age child what makes a good piece of writing, and they are likely to say a load of technical features. Have you ever walked into Waterstones, opened a book, looked at it and said, oh, look at that, similes, complex sentences, I'm going to buy it. So we've unfortunately lost the point and the plot a bit, which is not our fault. But what actually matters the most in writing is two things. Nothing else really matters. And that is the intent of the author. What do I want my reader to feel? And secondly, the impact on the reader. Now, once you have that as the basis of everything, words suddenly are flooding into your mind when you're thinking of what you want to do. And one of the exercises I did with the teachers on day 2 was to ask them to improve a sentence. The woman ate the food, it was, for instance. And by asking them, what do you want before you improve your sentence, what do you want the reader to feel? Do you want them to laugh? Do you want them to be horrified? Do you want them to be disgusted? Do you want them, and so on. Now, once you decide what you want that sentence to be, the impact to be, suddenly you see all the words. Whereas if you're just told to make this a better sentence, you don't know where to start, really. And that is just a little example of the impact, the incredible impact making this the focus of children's writing actually will have. And these are some of the things that we've looked at. Now, I've talked a little bit there and touched on co-constructing success criteria, and I can't tell you how important it is that children actually construct the success criteria with the teacher rather than having them printed out and stuck in their books, which is what I now see all over the country. Yes, I know it makes it look good, and I know it's manageable and so on, and it's okay to have them all there ready maybe, but the absolute best impact is if the children co-construct them with you. And there are all these different methods of not only getting the children to co-construct the success criteria, but also seeing what a good one looks like at the same time. It's actually more efficient. So show them 2 excellent examples and ask them what features they can see. Just tell me one thing you can see. You've got 30 seconds to talk, and you've shown them a couple of excellent examples of a letter or whatever it is you're talking about. I suppose, if it's at all possible, what I've seen happening is then the teacher is typing them as they come up with them and they go straight up there, or you've got a TA in the corner typing them. And then I even was in a year 1 classroom a few months ago where she typed them as the children were saying what they needed to measure in centimetres, and then she ran off and came back and they stick them all into their books. But it doesn't have to be like that. They can just be, you know, up on the screen. But the important thing is that they've co-constructed them. So all sorts of wonderful strategies, doing it wrong under the visualiser, so they all start calling out, no, that's not what you do. You know, demonstrating how to do things, show them one excellent against one that's not so good, get them to talk about what should be happening and so on. So look, there's absolutely loads of them. Here's an example of a year 3-4 teacher, and she's getting the children to come up with the criteria for solving maths problems.
Now I'm going to show you somebody who's solved a problem, and I would like you to think about why this person has been successful in solving their problem. There's a problem here, it's done in somebody's book, and I would like to know why this person has done this successfully. I've chosen this because it is a really effective piece of work. I was really pleased with it. So I would like to know why I'm really pleased with it. What have they done when solving this problem which has meant that they have got it not only right, but they've done it in such a way that it makes a lot of sense. So turn to your talk partner. What was successful about the way that this person solved this problem? Off you go, talk to your talk partner. I heard some great ideas, some really great thinking. Keep your hands down, please, because you've just been talking about it with your talk partner, so you should have an idea of at least one thing that's made this successful. Ruben, what did you see that was successful there?
They've highlighted the important bits and they need to
Fantastic, they've highlighted the important bits. Now that's the really important bit about this, is that it's the important bits. I suppose you're thinking, well, how do I know what the important bits are? Perhaps you could think about, how do we know what the important bits are? What else have they done that's made this quite a good way of explaining how they've done the problem? What else did they do very clearly? What has made this so successful that I've decided to choose it to show to you as a really good example? Daniela? They drew a diagram. They've drawn a picture of what's going on up here. Perhaps we could remind ourselves, maybe use symbols. Would that help, Alex? Yeah?
And you can see how effective that's going to be now when the children are doing their own word problems, that they've absolutely internalised that. Whereas if you just stick them in their books, they will become wallpaper. So the whole idea of discussing what a good one looks like is so important, and it's worth having, apart from, it's important that children don't just see one excellent example or they feel constrained to, copy that or, be influenced by that, if you like. But it's important to have sort of real nitty-gritty analysis every now and again, so that we look, for instance, at two pieces, one that's better than the other, and look at why is the looming blackness of the forest so much more effective than the dark forest, for instance, and get children talking without using any technical words about the impact. The whole point of this was a scary story opening. Why is that having a better impact? What words are doing that? Why are those words so powerful? And really talk that through. And if they've all got magpie books, by the time you finish a discussion, they've all written down looming, they've all written down spooky and other ooh words that are associated with scariness and blackness and so on. So now we're looking at the importance of, and this is the developing the learning bit, when children are involved in independent learning. Questioning children all the time, on foot, walking around, getting underneath the understanding. As John Hattie said, feedback is the most important person, is not the teacher. Feedback is not most powerful when it comes from the teacher, it's most powerful when it comes from the student or the child to the teacher. We should be always striving to find out what it is they're thinking and feeling. So asking questions like, tell me more, and what do you mean by that, what you've just said to me? Exactly what do you mean? Finding out what they're understanding, these kinds of questions. And one of the things that I've asked people to experiment with recently has been walkabouts. So you're just about to start your work, children, and instead of the usual one hand goes up the minute they all start working, and you go straight to that person and spend 8 minutes with them, and in the meantime another load of hands go up, you say, all of you start